What's up, everybody? Welcome to Chronocord Gaming and our discussion of the most anticipated titles backwards compatible for the Xbox One, formerly on the Xbox 360. My name is C-Dub, alongside my co-host, as always, JC. JC, I understand you have a little bit of info on how this is actually going to work on the Xbox One. Why don't you fill us in?
Now, Xbox has announced that the Xbox One will play Xbox 360 games, and the way it will be doing that is via emulator, it seems. You will have an emulator installed onto your Xbox One, and that will allow you to play some of your favorite 360 titles. Now, there is a preview program in place. Unfortunately, the list of games available for backwards compatibility at the moment, it's not that great. C-Dub, I know you weren't very big on the titles on that list. Let's go through a few of them, the first one being, of course, Mass Effect. Now, this title would have been at the top of my list anyway, and I hope to see Mass Effect 2 and 3 on this list very soon as well. Now, C-Dub, what are a few of the other titles that are available right now in the preview program?
Just to go over a few of those, we have two of the Banjo games, Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, both two great games. We also have Geometry Wars Evolved and Hexic HD. Those are two fun games from the 360 era. In addition to that, we also have Perfect Dark and Perfect Dark Zero, which are two great titles. And finally the biggest standout that I see is Super Meat Boy, which was a fantastic indie game that is definitely entertaining. My big problem with this, however, JC, in Microsoft rolling out the backwards compatibility announcement, I understand why they did it at E3. It is the most grand stage in gaming entertainment. If it were me at Microsoft, I think I would have waited just a little bit longer until I could have locked up some of those big name titles that we're going to get into here today. Before I rolled out with this announcement, it is cool to have it in the preview program. However, I'm hoping by the fall, Microsoft will go through whatever licensing is necessary to bring these games back from the 360 to the Xbox One.
Let us begin with our lists of games that we want to see on this backwards compatibility collection. Let's start with the ones that we both are going to really want to see on the Xbox One, starting with Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah, this one's pretty much a no-brainer, man. This is the penultimate Western game. There's been so much said about Red Dead Redemption, and currently it is in the lead on the Xbox feedback page for the backwards compatibility by about 10,000 votes. So I have a feeling we are going to see Red Dead Redemption added to that list by the fall.
Yep, I think you're right about that, C-Dub. Now let's keep going down that list, which is found on Xbox.com. You can go there and vote for the games that you want to see put on this backwards compatibility list. Rounding out the top 5 or so, we have Call of Duty Black Ops 2, Skyrim at number 3, which would have been on my personal list as well. We have Modern Warfare 2 and Halo Reach. So we have a few selections from some of the biggest franchises that were found on the 360, and it's going to be exciting to see some of these ported over to the Xbox One.
Most of those games that mentioned there that are in the top 5 are still very popular with online players, and so certainly bringing them to the Xbox One is a no-brainer.
All right, C-Dub, let's begin with you. Why don't you give us your first selection that you would like to see on Xbox One?
Right off the top, myself, as you all know at this point, I am a huge pro wrestling fan. I would like to see both of the iterations of the WWE series, the THQ SmackDown vs. Raw series, as well as the 2K Sports WWE 2K series. WWE games are pretty much the best you're going to get as a pro wrestling gamer on modern consoles, and it's always nice to be able to put those old volumes of the wrestling game comes out annually to good use.
Yeah, and another cool thing about being able to play these games on Xbox One is that you will be able to play online with people who are still playing these titles on the 360. The first one that I'm going to mention, it's going to be the Assassin's Creed Ezio trilogy. Now, these 3 games are really at the top of my all-time list. I still play them to this day, and I would love to play them again on Xbox One. I don't know how advanced or improved the graphics or sound would be, but it would be kind of cool to see.
Most definitely. Number 2 on my list, JC, would be the Crackdown series, which of course is developed in part by Microsoft. This was a great game that kind of took the GTA open world platform free roam deal and just took it to brand new heights with the crazy rocket jumps and abilities you can upgrade. I'm almost certain that Crackdown will be added to this list sometime soon.
Now, the next game on my list is going to be Fallout 3. Fallout 3 is an all-time classic. Now, the beautiful thing about this game is that it's the open wasteland, and it seems like an endless map around and in Washington, D.C. We have a new announcement here of Fallout 4, which comes out later this year, November 10th, I believe. It's going to be real exciting to see that one, but you cannot stop yourself from going back and reliving Fallout 3, and that's why I hope to see it ported over to the Xbox One.
Number 3 on my list is the Castlevania Lords of Shadow series, both the original and the sequel by Konami. Man, those games were fantastic. I loved the God of War-ish gameplay. It's definitely very similar, but the environments and the art style were fantastic, and I hope that we may even get a little bit of a boost to those whenever they are ported over to the Xbox One. Perhaps the Xbox One could run the coding and whatnot that is involved with the environments a little bit better than the 360.
Yeah, that's kind of a question that lingers to me, is how improved will these games look when they are made to be compatible on the Xbox One? It's kind of an interesting thought. Can they really improve the graphics that much with just software upgrades? I mean, obviously the hardware is much, much improved over the 360. It'll be very interesting to do some side-by-side comparisons between the graphics for the 2 versions of the games that will be out now.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to hopefully Microsoft beefing up these old games somehow. It could very easily happen with supplemental files that perhaps allow the Xbox One to bring some new perspective to them, more quality.
Number 3 on my list, now this isn't in any specific order of importance or anything, but it's going to be Bioshock. Another great series for the 360 and PS3, of course. But Bioshock really captured my attention. The story is so original. Kind of still waiting for this thing to be developed into a movie. It's that good. And the game itself, the gameplay, the first-person shooter action, it's second to none. And I cannot wait to jump back into that game. So much fun.
Number 4 on my list is one of my all-time favorite games, Portal 2 by Valve and EA. One of the coolest, most unique puzzle games I've ever played. It completely invaded my brain space and had me strung out trying to beat it for an entire weekend. It's one of those games that is challenging to a fun degree and just a little bit frustrating sometimes.
It's definitely a mind bender. Now, my next choice for game to be made backwards compatible, let's make that games. It's going to be the Arkham games for 360. We have Arkham Asylum, Arkham City, Arkham Origins. Now, all 3 great games. I know Arkham Origins wasn't made by Rocksteady, and it wasn't quite as loved by the critics, but in my opinion, it's always best to try out a game yourself first and never listen to the critics, because half the time, they're not going to be right.
I'm afraid so. I've had a lot of great games go completely under my radar in the past for doing just what you said and listening to the critics. Moving along to number 5 for me, appropriately, at number 5 is Resident Evil 5 by Capcom. Resident Evil 6 wasn't all that great, I'm afraid. Again, that's one of those games where the critics panned it, and I gotta say, myself personally, it wasn't that great as well. So until we get another great Resident Evil game in the series, we're going to have to suffice for Resident Evil 5 being ported over to the Xbox One.
Now, I had a tough time picking this fifth game that I would want to see on that compatibility list. First, I was going with Dead Space, which is a classic horror game, scared the living crap out of me when I played it. Another one would be the obvious GTA 4 and GTA San Andreas. And also another first-person shooter, which I really, really liked, Crysis 2 and Crysis 3. Those graphically were superb on the 360, and it would be kind of interesting to see what they could do if the graphics were upgraded at all for the next version for Xbox One. Now, those were all my extras on my list. My number 5 choice, it's going to be Deus Ex: Human Revolution. This is one of my favorite games for 360, and they just announced recently a sequel to that, which will come out next year in 2016. So being able to go back and play the first one on the Xbox One will certainly be a good primer for playing through the sequel, Deus Ex: Mankind Divided.
And that's going to be one of the most anticipated titles coming up for the Xbox One. Everyone out there listening, I know you all have your favorites. Be sure to drop in the comments and let us know which games you're looking forward to most becoming backward compatible with the Xbox One. If you have not already, please subscribe, as well as checking out our original instrumental music at chronochord.com. You can also find us on SoundCloud at Chronochord, on Twitter at Chronochord, Instagram, and now Periscope at Chronochord. For my co-host JC, this is C-Dub. See you next time.